Thank you for this opportunity to present PICS Therapeutics and our PVAD at this forum. In trying to identify the size of the market, we can start by looking at the normal pressure supplied by the healthy heart, 120 millimeters of mercury. And whenever the blood pressure drops to below 90 millimeters of mercury, this leads to a condition where the kidneys are not perfused adequately. There is inadequate urine production. This leads to volume overload and from there to heart failure. It's difficult to count the patients because they don't get admitted for this condition to hospitals. But looking at another segment of the market, about 10% of patients that are admitted with heart attack, they have low blood pressure. And in yet a different segment of the market, a large number of patients, about 10% of them with heart attack, they are resistant to medications. So whenever there is such a blood pressure compromise, medications can raise the pressure, but at a metabolic cost to the heart, and LVADs and ECMO. First of all, they are not widely available, and second, it's perhaps too early for these patients. So in this segment of the market, the only available solution with minimally invasive surgery, Impella 2.5, if the patient has 70 millimeters of mercury, it cannot raise the blood pressure to above 90 to activate the kidneys. So there's an urgent need for a high-pressure PVAD in an area of the market that there exists a reimbursement structure here in the United States. So in trying to count patients, heart failure with complications, about 750,000 in the US. ER revisits and readmits with heart failure, another 600,000, between them about 1 million in the United States, and this doesn't include the 15 to 20% of STEMI or heart attack with blood pressure. So there is an unmet need, and by our estimate, 1 million in the US patients, 1 million in Europe, 1 million worldwide, 3 million, and at 10,000 per device, that's a 30 billion unaddressed market per year. So there are, of course, additional indications. These may be, for instance, post-cardiac surgery or acute kidney injury, or patients waiting for an LVAD, or indeed cardiogenic shock. So at this point, I would like to talk about all other devices that have a single impeller. A single impeller, whether it's axial or screw or centrifugal, introduces a vortex. Once a vortex is established, that the only way to stop it is friction, and friction is bad for the blood. In addition to this, the vortex entrains flow from around it in recirculation patterns, which also cause friction. And then as we try to make the devices smaller, this means higher RPM to make the flow. This is also very bad. And all of these mean high pressure downstream, lower pressure upstream. This means backflow. All of these are very lossy patterns, and all these other devices are condemned to be lower efficiency. So in our technology, we have contra-rotating blades in an hourglass frame surrounded by a membrane. And the second impeller removes the vortex. The inlet and the outlet of the hourglass mean that there's no recirculation. Controlling the tip of the gap between the tips of the impellers and the waist means no regurgitant flow, and this minimizes friction and maximizes flow. The device is collapsed in 12 millimeters. It's implanted in the descending aorta in sizes between 20 and 35 millimeters in aortic size. And our animal trials verify that there is no drop in carotid pressure. It's the only device that can deliver 30 millimeters of mercury at 5 liters per minute at under 6,000 RPM. The anatomic location means that there is no cerebral emboli. It's self-stabilizing in the descending aorta, and the permeable inlet allows perfusion around the membrane of the device, thus perfusing intercostal and, importantly, the spinal artery. And of course, it has an external drive and motor. It can be used from a few hours and up to several days, and that's part of the FDA approval strategy. Here I show you videos of the device collapsing in 22 millimeter in 22 millimeter, in 22 French. We're now collapsing it in 12 French, but the patent on that will be published in May, so I haven't told you how we collapse it in 12 French yet. In comparison with representative, and I repeat, representative other such designs, one of them, for instance, is impeller. It's a small impeller, so it has a vortex, a recirculation, and regurgitant flow across the aortic valve. Procyon is another typical design, a small impeller in a tube in the descending aorta. And here you see from their own website the effect of the vortex once you turn the pump on. That also has vortex, recirculation, and regurgitant flow. And the right-hand catheter pump and other similar pumps in an open cage, smaller than the diameter of the vessel, also have vortex and recirculation and regurgitant flow. So we are the only device going into the largest diameter, highest pressure rise and flow rate, lowest RPM, and highest efficiency. So here you see the bench-tested performance of a representative impeller. We deliver on the left at design point 5 liters per minute at 30 millimeters of mercury at 5.4 thousand RPM. And notably, we deliver 10 millimeters of mercury, 2.5 liters per minute at 3.2 thousand RPM. That's an order of magnitude lower than impeller. On the right is what if we had used just a single impeller, and we also need to go to higher RPM with a single impeller to get higher pressure and flow. We are not doing that. We're doing the device on the left, which also has the lowest hemolysis because it is the highest efficiency device. So our animal trials have indicated that when we get in, and the pig in this instance, pre-heart failure is at 100 millimeters of mercury, then with medication-induced heart failure in the middle, it drops to about 70 millimeters of mercury. Then we put a device in, turn it on, and within seconds, the pig is back at 100, heart failure plus the device at 100 millimeters of mercury, delivering these 30 millimeters at 6,000 RPM in that instance over an extended period of time. So in terms of where we are with respect to the development process, there are several patents issued, several patents pending. The main claims are awarded. We have de-risked a lot of the mechanical issues of the device. We have tested it, we have developed it. We are collapsing it in 12 French. We have tested it on bench and in animal. The IP is secured, and we think we're in a very sweet spot, so that in the next 12 months, we expect to be passed first in human, and about 2 years after that, past FDA approval. I should mention we have reached the point we are at today with only 2.2 million. We do have a Gantt chart. It's a 30,000 views shown here at the bottom right. It's quite detailed. Everything we need is in there. With respect to our team, my co-founder, Martin Rothman, I can't see him because of the light. He's somewhere here in the room. He's an interventional cardiologist with an international reputation in that field, having trained a third of the interventional cardiologists in Britain. He's also a serial entrepreneur. And the world likes to think of me as an engineer, and indeed I can do some engineering things, but I think we have a few more tricks up our sleeve that we'll be discussing in the future. 5 seconds to go. Thank you very much.